Hi, Heather. Heather's wondering, do lions live the same amount of years as leopard? Females, pretty similar, but males generally will have a shorter lifespan than leopard. There is more competition, and it's harder to survive when there's more male coalitions around and competing for the same areas. Where are we off to next, guys? I'm heading in the direction the warthog ran. I think that warthog is long gone, but maybe that's what's leading them down the lugga towards the west. Oh, just quickly, look at that, Seb. That is gorgeous. Absolutely stunning. And a light bricking through the clouds. Oh, we got one of the young males going down a hole. So there's a lion going down a hole over there. I'm just going to get a bit closer. You can just see him there. He's decided there's no one at home. Oh no, next one's going to go check. Let's go have a closer look. So it looks like they're after pigs. It doesn't look like anyone's at home, unfortunately for the lions. There's just the lioness having a look. No, no one at home. And keep moving. I'm just going to try and get the lions with that sun behind them very quickly. There we go. There's a pretty view. Well, it looks like our lions are taking a little break and a little cuddle time. Oh, the three boys at least. Let's lie on top of each other. And we're going to make it a 4. Yes, all 4. Oh, isn't that cute? Silly kitties. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay, well, our lions have a little nap. It sounds like, I'm not sure whether Tayla's still with the same lions or she's found some more.
Well, we're back with the females again. We left the boys because they didn't look like they were going to do anything. And the girls, however, are not looking much better. And I can just see massive rain clouds coming this way, which is a problem. Jahawi, are we going to get wet or are we going to miss this storm? Look at it. It's unbelievable. It is huge. It's just engulfing the sky now. I think camp at Angama is going to get wet. It looks like it's hugging the escarpment. Maybe we're going to be lucky and we're going to miss it, but I'm not so sure just yet. But hopefully our girls will wake up because there are still a lot of warthogs around. It's quite unusual that the warthogs are still out this evening. Normally on chillier nights, and also when it's overcast, not much of a sunset, they'll go back into their burrows and end their day a little bit earlier than normal. But that does not seem to be the case this afternoon. The buffalo are still moving around. Well, they move around all the time. But there's just so much game about, and I'm hoping in the next, I don't know, I suspect the next 20 or 30 minutes or so, once we lose a lot of light, these girls will start waking up. They're just having little cat naps every now and then. Now, Justin, you're wondering if I think that, oh, there's the, hang on, sorry, Justin. Oh, nice spotting. There's the grey-crowned cranes flying around. I'll get to your question now. Beautiful. So those will be the ones that we spoke about a little bit earlier. They're now taking off, going to go and roost somewhere straight towards the storm. Very brave. So anyways, Justin, you were wondering whether I think lions snore, and I can confirm this. I've heard lions snoring many different times. From the Ngahuma Pride, there's a couple of lionesses in there that are absolute queens of snoring. Heard male lions, heard the Southern Pride snore, heard lions in Zambia also snoring, and in the Eastern Cape. So it's actually quite common when they go into a really deep sleep, then they will let out the odd. They don't whistle though. That doesn't happen. They just sort of make a strange sound. We've actually been live a couple of times where we've had the lions snoring too. If I remember, I've definitely had them since I've been at Wild Earth snoring. Everyone's racing home to make the gate. But the lionesses are not in that deep sleep at the moment. They're up and down. They're looking around. I think they're deciding on what they're going to do. Now, that girl seems to be a little bit older. I'm just looking at her. And she's looking at us every now and then. And the girl on the right seems to be the youngest of the three. And I'm just looking at, because of her spots, she's much lighter in colour. She also doesn't look quite as big as the other females. So I wonder if this wasn't the girl that was being mated with. Because the others, well, it could have been any of them. It's hard to tell. There's no obvious bite marks. Though we saw, though, it didn't seem to be particularly aggressive mating. It was towards the end, so if there were any little superficial wounds, they might have healed up and cleaned up by now with after all the rain that we've had. It's pretty consistent, the rain. We've had rain every single afternoon and in the same spots. That's why we can never go down to the southwestern corners in the afternoon, because we just wouldn't be part of the show at all. We'd just be sitting in our tent. Engulfed by the rain. So we just keep coming to do this eastern corner, which is fine. It suits me perfectly, but it's really coming in quite quickly now. Oh, good luck, everybody, back at camp. I hope your tents are zipped up and closed. Now, Ilani, you're wondering how many prides and coalitions of lions are there in the Mara? Too many. Sure, I wouldn't be able to count. And also the lions are constantly crossing. So they're going from the reserve, they'll cross into the river, over the Mara River and into the Triangle Side. They'll go into conservancies. So it's a bit difficult to say. I'm just trying to think. Let's count. Let's go through them. So we see the Olololo females, what we call the Olololo females, which are 4 lionesses. And then we've got the Angama priders, which is a big pride with the 500 million cubs. There's about 12 cubs. So we see them. That's around this area. Then we've got the Triangle boys here. We see the Cheli males, which are the 2 young boys. One fella's got a collar on him. We see the Egyptian goose pride. We see the 2 variations of the sausage tree pride. We see the Serena pride, I think they've called them, which is a group that hangs around Serena. We see the marsh, I think the marsh breakaways are the same as the Olololo females, if I'm not mistaken. Who else do we see? The Paradise pride, the Salt Lick pride, the Purungut pride, and then, my goodness, I'm sure there's a whole lot more, and lots of young males in between as well. It's so hard to say, and I wonder how many lions we don't actually see, especially if you start heading towards the Tanzanian border. Some that come across from Tanzania that we don't even know their names and are a little bit skittish. We've gone down there and I've seen cats before, and they run from the vehicles, nowhere near as relaxed as the lions up here. I suppose that depends on the individual. If they haven't been seeing lots of vehicles in that area, it doesn't seem to get much traffic going through it, besides on the Kenyan side, a little bit on the Tanzanian side. Every now and then you'll see the odd vehicle, but other than that, I think if the wildebeest are not up there, there's no need for them to be around, so they obviously just don't get much time with the cars and are a little bit more nervous, and that's okay. Yeah, everyone's on their way home now. Run guys, it's getting late. No, just teasing. Little Governors is alright, their camp is just over here, but everybody else just stays outside. So we're actually quite lucky, because Angama's not in the triangle itself. It's up on the escarpment, but we've got almost our own semi-private gate that we share with Mara West as well. They'll use the same one. Now, I have absolutely no idea where I'm sending you off to, but it sounds like wherever you're about to go, there are raindrops falling from the sky.
Tayla, that would be down in not so sunny South Africa. As you can see, even Mvula has decided enough is enough. Paw is over face, and it is all just really quite horrid out here. It is incredibly cold as well. It's pretty miserable, but well, it's still nice at least that we're getting some rain. It would just be nice if the wind would stop, because the wind is what's driving the rain past us and into our faces a little bit. So I think what I might do just now is reposition myself so that I can be a little bit more like Mvula, who has got his kind of paw across his face. And so what I want to try and do is try and get into a similar situation where I can use the car to kind of block us from this windy the rain that's coming in from the southeast, because we're facing pretty much southeast at the moment, or south actually. And so if we try and just maneuver our backside a little bit, hopefully we should stay a little drier than what we currently are at the moment. But it's quite quiet out otherwise. I mean, Mvula obviously is just waiting for this rain to pass. He doesn't want to kind of move too far. He's, like I say, he's over it completely right now. It was quite funny just to watch him kind of tuck his head under his paw as if to just kind of cover his face from this horrible rain that's falling. And as much as it's quite a sad thing to see, you kind of feel sorry for him. I suppose it's nature, and this is the way it is, and all of them have to deal with it. And I can imagine there is many cats across this area where this rain is falling that look exactly like that individual does at the moment. Now there seems to be a couple little birds making a bit of noise around me, but I don't think we'll be able to see them. Sorry, you're not going to be able to see them because they're behind a bush that is behind me, which is where the rain covers are, and so you can just hear it. There's some red-billed buffalo weavers that are making a bit of a racket behind me at the moment, and so, but other than that, there's not much happening. I don't think we'll see too much movement of animals in this weather. I think only once it gets dark would we start to see the leopards starting to move around. Now, Foxhat, you're asking what the best tree is to shelter in the rain, or under in the rain. I don't know. I feel like Mvula's done pretty well. Guarri bushes are pretty much a good thing. I think maybe something large with the guarri bush under it, maybe something like a jackalberry with this guarri bush growing underneath would probably be the best, because you get a nice kind of big tree which provide quite a bit of shelter, and then the little guarri bush. But anywhere you hide, water unfortunately is that way, that it just finds its way through and you'll get dripped on. And so for the animals, generally this is what you see, is that leopards and will try and lions will try and kind of fit themselves into a thicket like this, and you can actually see he's quite clever about what he's done. There's a slight raised section, and that will be blocking the wind that is coming from that southeast, that he's kind of lying on the northwestern corner of this little mound of soil, or termite mound, that is developed here. And so he's getting a bit of protection from the wind and even a bit of the rain that's coming down, and he's kind of protected himself with a bit of the guarri bushes that are also protecting him from rain. So he's done quite well. So guarri trees are good ones, jackalberries, cape ashes, nyala berries, all those really big trees. And if you can find one with a bit of vegetation underneath, the low-lying shrub like a guarri, then you're really A for away, and you're going to win completely with what you're doing. So that's what I would suggest. But you can see Mvula is wet. He's covered in water. He looks much like we do, and he's all matted. His fur is kind of damp, and he must be a little cold as well. And you'll find that the poor cats in this weather, they actually use a lot of energy, even though you would think in the heat they would lose more. But trying to stay warm in this is really quite tough. You'll find a situation where he kind of has to curl up, and I'd imagine they do get a little bit of a kind of shivers as they are. I mean, it's the body must be working hard to try and stay warm and to try and keep that body temperature up. See, like, I don't know, I've never seen a leopard occupy a den of another animal in weather like this. I suppose they could. Most definitely cubs would do it. So if cubs were left alone, you'd find them crawling into maybe a termite mound or into a little rocky outcrop that might be used by other animals. But most certainly they would be very careful of going into places where there could potentially be something dangerous. Remember that a lot of these areas that provide shelter house all kinds of dangerous animals. Things like warthogs, which we know can cause damage to a leopard. There's hyenas, there's snakes, there's, those kind of things that ultimately are not very pleasant to share a bedroom with in cold, wet weather. You're not going to want to go down a dark burrow and then meet up face to face with a black mamba or a snouted cobra. And so leopards generally will just lie out like this under a bush. Same with lions. Young individuals will go into their little den sites where they've been left. Remember that leopard cubs generally are left in their dens for the first 3 months. If they're that kind of age, then they are going to be going into some sort of shelter, whether it be a rocky outcrop or a termite mound or a kind of hole in a riverbank or something like that, where they can then get out of this wet weather and stay nice and curled up and warm and out of the wind more than anything else. while we've been sitting here, the rain is actually not that bad. That's not too much of a worry, and it's not too much of a stress. It's the wind that is so cold, and it's driving the rain into places where it normally isn't. And so especially for us, it's kind of blowing the rain into us, and that's what's making it so cold this afternoon. It's not actually the rain itself. Without the wind, when the wind doesn't blow, it's fairly pleasant. As soon as the wind does get up, then it becomes a little bit more of an issue. So if they can get out of the wind, then they can stay a lot warmer. Chastity, so I was waiting for somebody to pick up on this, because you say that Mvula means rain. Yes, it does mean rain, and it's a very apt leopard to have found, or any animal actually. Out of all of our animals here, he's got the most apt name to be able to see on a afternoon like this. So it was kind of written in the script and perfectly suited for our afternoon's weather. It definitely is a rainy weather with a soggy leopard, and the reason he got his name like that, and people might wonder, if those that are new to the show, that he was called Mvula because of rain. No, it's not because of that. It's because of his eye color. So his eye color almost looks a little water-like, and so there was already a leopard in this area when he arrived that was called Mati. Now Mati means water, and so they couldn't call him that, and so they went for the next thing, which was rain, and that is Mvula. And it's actually a very good friend of mine that gave the Mvula name to this leopard. He's now down in Sabi, in the west of the Sabi Sands, but he was the one that came up with that name. And so it's a interesting name, and I suppose it does suit him, and I quite like it. So I like the name Mvula. It suits our old lad, and his eyes are absolutely exquisite, and so it does look a little bit kind of like water and raindrops, and so fair enough name. Right now though, he's not showing any of those beautiful eyes. He's decided that he's going to curl up and stay warm and just try and wait out this horrible rainy weather. It looks as though we're in a little bit of a gap now, so if we look towards the sky at the moment, I know it's difficult for VM because of all the rain covers, but if you look towards the sky, it's kind of whitish, but in the distance is dark and black and ominous. And I think what's going to happen is what we're going to experience the whole afternoon is just waves of rain coming through. So it's almost like these little sheets that come down, and it kind of blows through for a bit, and it's horrible, and then it goes off, and we get a little hiatus like we have now, and a bit of brighter conditions, and then that darkness is going to push through again. So I think we're in for another little bout, probably in the next sort of 15-20 minutes or so, given how much the wind is blowing. I would imagine we're going to get a nice little downpour and probably get not very comfortable at all. So we'll have to try and kind of reposition ourselves a little bit and try and figure out a way to just be a little bit more kind of sheltered than what we are now, because if it does start raining quite hard now, we're going to get very, very wet. I've also been listening out quite carefully, trying to hear if there's been any signs of Tingana maybe moving around while we've been sitting with Mvula, in case maybe he's been kind of following the scent and following the trail, but we haven't heard any alarm calls or any sounds of anything. The only thing that's starting to call now is a few insects and maybe even some frogs, and so we'll listen out for more sounds, and hopefully there'll be some that will call close by that we can maybe even find and show all of you. So while I wait for that, and while I see if I can rummage something out of this area while we stick with Mvula, let's go back to Brent, who I believe is still with his lions and under some really ominous skies, just like what we have.
There we go. Well, while Tristan waits for that storm to pound down at Djuma with some much needed rain, we are happily for once sitting in between all the storms in the Mara, and the lions are still on the move, but it's slim pickings these days. There's not much big game around since the wildebeest have left. I also heard that lion. I heard a guinea fowl alarming. Are there other lions around, or could it be Miale, the female cheetah? Could there be a leopard down in the lago? Have a quick look with the binos. The lions have heard those guinea fowls as well. Some of them have, it seems. Chris is wondering, do animals in Africa change their fur with the change of season? A little bit, Chris, not really. It's generally, the temperature variations aren't generally that bad. Now, in the Mara, there's even less because we're on the equator. So I wouldn't say they change their fur during the change of seasons at all. Marching, these guys. They've covered quite a bit of distance from where we found them. And she keeps looking down towards where that guinea fowl was alarming with a big sausage tree is down there in the lugger. But obviously not enough to really make them change their direction. Okay, so unfortunately they are going to head down into a bit of a gremlin zone. But we'll just park on top here and watch them head off into that pinky sky. Some of these big valleys here unfortunately do cause us a little bit of technical difficulties. What have you seen, mister? I don't know if you've seen something. No, I'm just playing around, I think. They are quite goofballs at this age. Is the word.
The rain in Kenya.
As you can see, as I was saying, it's tough times at the moment. Not a lot of food around. So we got two boys and a mom. You can see how much bigger they are already than she is. The wind is picking up. Oh, looking for... Are you going to charge the last remaining young male? He's taking his time catching up. Or are you just going to keep walking? No, we're going to keep walking. No, oh, no, maybe not. Maybe we are in for a bit of tackle as they converge, but I don't think so. I think they are just going to keep strolling down towards that lugger, the gremlin lugger. What a lovely way to see them off. Hopefully they have some success during the night. But I think they've got quite a bit of ground to cover to find any food. Gremlins General wants to know, do any of the lodges cancel safari drives when it rains like this? Well, it's all up to the guests. If the guests want to go out, the lodges will put a vehicle out. So it's very, very seldom that a lodge will cancel a drive due to rain. And in the Mara, most of the vehicles have the ability to be closed up and are very watertight. You have to have that in the Mara. You couldn't have an open vehicle like we do in the more arid southern Africa. You would spend a lot of time being very grumpy and very damp and very cold. Okay, bye-bye, kitties. I think we might go have a look if we can spot those other two males. They're in a non-gremlin zone on the other side of this valley. Woof, let's go. It is so special being out in the bush on a daily basis. Might take a gander past where those guinea fowl were alarming. It could be a jackal, could be serval as well. It could be a cheetah, a leopard, a lion, you never know. So while we go check it out, let's go back to a poor, wet, old kitty cat. And of course I'm talking about Mvula, not Tristan.
I was about to say, Brent, if you're calling me old kitty cat, I feel like Jamie might have a problem with it, and well, I also would have a serious problem with it. I don't really want to be referred to as an old kitty cat, and especially not by another man. Anyway, let's not get into that at all. You can see Mvula is still not very comfortable. It just came down in a deluge again. It's now easing up, and so he's trying to get himself into a dry position, and shame, he's looking very sorry for himself. I'm sorry, boy. Is it horrible out here today? I know, it's not very pleasant. I feel your pain. I'm also all damp and kind of trying to hide from the rain a little bit. We repositioned slightly, so we're in a different kind of angle, and it's helping a little bit with the pouring rain that comes down every now and then. We're not getting as wet as what we were just now, but shame, this poor leopard is not feeling up to it at all. He's decided, nope, I'm going to stay right here. Every now and then there's a gust of wind and droplets seem to be hitting him on the face and the nose, and he tries to then groom it out, but it really is not very pleasant weather for a cat. But look at those eyes. Are they not just the most magnificent color? I know there's some leopards out here that have amazing colored eyes, and Hyana's got beautiful kind of deep orange, and Tumber with his green eyes are also captivating, but for me a blue-eyed leopard or light colored eyed leopards are just some of the best. And so Mvula, Anderson, Tiani, those eye colors are just some of the most standout and contrasting colors out of our leopards here, and they really are fascinating when you get to watch them and see those kind of types of leopards, because it's not a common thing to see. I suppose in this area it seems to be fairly common if you think that there's 3 leopards that are alive and moving around within the section that all have this lighter bluish tinged eye color. It's pretty amazing. You go into other parts of the Sabi Sands and you see very little of it. In fact, down in the south I didn't see any that had any kind of color remotely like it. Heba with a B, I think that is what Megan says. But Heba, you are asking how long do leopards last without a meal? Well, obviously it depends on what their previous meal was, but let's say they had a massive meal and they're fully, totally saturated with food. They have as much as they could possibly stomach, full belly. They'll probably look at about 2 weeks until a leopard would be absolutely emaciated and really struggling. The problem with a leopard is that even though they might go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, once they start going over 7 days without food, they start to, basically cannibalize their own body, and it ends up with a situation where they're going to start kind of getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and then it becomes harder and harder to hunt. And so the more days they go, even though they might still be able to survive a little bit longer, it becomes harder, and it actually accelerates that kind of starvation process if they're not able to hunt, because they basically get to the point where they can't hunt. So it's a horrible thing to see. I've seen lions and even leopards get to that point where they're so old that they're starting to really struggle. Safari was one of them. So for those of you who don't know who Safari was, she was a female leopard and the grandmother of Hyena, effectively, and Shongile, so it was Karula's mother, and she lived to about 19 and a half, and it was a really sad thing to watch her. In a way, it was great because she lived to such a ripe old age, and it was phenomenal to see a leopard get to that age. But it was sad in that we watched this icon from this particular area literally waste away, and she just went from, this kind of healthy individual, even though she only had the one eye that was, in good condition, and slowly but surely her body just kind of consumed herself. And then towards the end, her teeth were worn, they were almost pebble-like, her claws were not as sharp as they were, and she literally basically starved to death in the end, and it was a horrible thing to watch. I didn't really enjoy the last kind of month of seeing her. It was a hard thing to watch. It's never nice to see an animal that is suffering like that. She was literally just looked like a skeleton that had leopard coat on it. But at the end of the day, the thing is, every time we used to see her and think, oh, this is going to be the end, we'd find her with a scrub hair or something like that, or a lizard or a bird, and she just kind of clung on and kept going and going and going. It was actually really incredible just to see how much will to survive she had. It was a hard thing, but it was an amazing thing as well. Now, our sleeping cat is curled up, feeling very sorry for himself and feeling a little on the miserable side. So I'm going to try and sit with him for a little bit longer and just see if he gets up. I believe Tayla has also got some rather sleepy kitties on her side of the world.
Right, so we're still here with our cats, of course, and it seems as though they've crept well, deeper and deeper into the grass and lower, and finding little crevices to hide behind because the wind has now picked up. We haven't had any rain, which is, I suppose, good for us. And the lions probably are enjoying the fact that they don't have their coats wet just yet, but that could, of course, all change. But I don't know we're going to get much action over here. They do have full bellies, so I was just saying to Jahawi, I wonder if they're going to prioritize their warmth rather than going to look for something to eat. But anyways, that's just one of those things. Sometimes you get lucky and the cats are up and moving around, just like Brent saw this evening, but these girls seem to be doing the complete opposite. So I thought we would maybe change our minds. Maybe we would try and find some of the nocturnal creatures that roam around here on these open plains. And I did. I'm actually going to start driving now. I saw some really cool white-tailed mongoose last night racing around. So maybe we can actually try and get them on camera. I don't know when I last put a white-tailed mongoose on screen. That was quite nice. So we'll look for them. We'll look for a serval. I'd really... Oh, that's a bit bumpy. I'd really, really, really like to see a serval this evening, but I can't be too picky. So I'll take a white-tailed mongoose. I feel like I've got more of a chance of seeing one of those. Or maybe a leopard. Who knows what's going to jump out. We'll check along the luggers. But before Jamie's beautiful sunset completely disappears, let's go and take a look.
It's almost completely disappeared, but luckily it is just still hanging on to the tip of the horizon, or at least the remaining red light. And it is a really lovely perspective on the storms that are falling on various parts of the Mara. And this is essential, that it rains as much as possible. It makes our lives more difficult, but it really plays an intrinsic part of the recovery of the ecosystem now that the wildebeest have gone. Those are buffalo, by the way, that you just saw. There you can see utterly gorgeous. Of course, this is the short rains, the brief and small rains. Could I ask a huge favor, FC in Final Control? I'm trying desperately to block it out, but can you ask Darby to hold off on his conversation just for a little bit, or just double check it's bleeding through into my comms. And I don't know any of these technical camera terms, but yeah, Fergus says neither does he. But it has a proper derailing effect, I'm afraid. Okay, couldn't quite retain my thought process there. I tried to power through it, but it just wasn't quite working. And we're still figuring out a new comm system, which is why sometimes these things happen. That's why we've been caught thinking we're not knowing we're live, or thinking we're live, which you miss out on, which is hilarious. And that's generally when you present. Generally, when you present to yourself for about 5 minutes and then realize you're actually talking nonsense to no one. It's quite entertaining when that happens. Just one of those things. Most of the time I can block it out, but that was quite an intensely detailed conversation about, I don't know what was going on there, f-stops or something, I don't know. But it went a little bit too far for my understanding. So we're going to be heading home relatively soon. That's because we don't have a ranger with us today. We ducked around and we were just far too far away from anywhere to actually be able to pick somebody up. So we do have to head back as we hit closing time. We've still got a little while longer though, so one more beautiful view, because many of you are commenting on the lovely sunset. And how about I'm quiet for a moment? Although I confess all you're going to hear is the wind, but I'll be quiet anyway.
I could sing for it.
Or Ferg could sing for you. I'm really disappointed you didn't now.
It sounded a lot like the wind when I sang.
Ah. Olololo escarpment. all the way over there at the back. And that's where Tayla is, somewhere. In that general-ish direction. I don't really know exactly where she is, but somewhere between that ridge and the escarpment, she is pottering about looking for nocturnal creatures, which is what we're going to do as well. I know that in this area there is a resident pangolin. Not that I'm promising anything, but you never know. It would be a rather nice surprise. Since the wind is probably overwhelming you, I can tell you that I can hear a coqui francolin, a white-browed kukul, and the sound of the wind rushing through the Mara air. Okay, well, we enjoy the glory of a Mara evening. We do apologize for the gremlins that apparently are attacking our feed. It's just one of those things, as I said earlier. We can't control it, but we do apologize, and our tech team will be working on it as we speak. Okay, we're going to start heading on back towards camp. While we do that, let's send you back over to Tristan, who is all the way in South Africa. I'm sure enjoying an evening that is almost as beautiful.
Well, I'm not so sure I would call this evening beautiful. It's beautiful in that we're getting rain, Jamie, but as you can see by Mvula and, well, probably me as well, we look a little bit like drowned rats this afternoon, and so it's very cold and very unpleasant out here, but it has a leopard, and that means that it's probably, yes, it is very beautiful. In fact, the fact that we can look at a spotted cat while we're sitting here makes it the best afternoon possible. Right, but while I've been sitting here, I've been thinking about all kinds of other things to talk about while we were kind of sitting with Mvula, and so I was looking at all the insect life that is accumulated in our roof over the sort of dry period, and there was a few that came sort of tumbling out of my rain cover earlier, and there's two examples here, and one is, I actually don't know what either, I think they're both part of the shield bug family. I'm not 100% sure which one is, or what each one is, but they have the most magnificent colors. This one here is like a little orangey red color, and it has that typical kind of sort of shield bug shape, and then the one on the left is a bright green, almost cicada kind of looking. It's got massive black eyes. It's very interesting. I've honestly never seen the green one before. These little orange ones I've seen flying around from time to time, so I would hope maybe somebody can help me as to what each one of these beetle species is. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I'm sure that this one here is part of the shield bug, but I'm not 100% sure about the little green one, and you can actually see how big these are. These are tiny. If you come out a little bit for me, Vildy, then you'll see my fingers in relation to the size of the bugs. Oh, and we've got a visitor. Look what's coming, Vildy. It's running at speed. Is a praying mantid little baby. There it comes. Is it going to come and try and feed off of these dead insects? How cool will that be if that happens? So there's our praying mantid. It's coming through from the rain. Maybe it's trying to seek shelter itself into the car. I think, come on, little mantid, come get some shade or some shelter. It's raining out there. Come join us on this side of the dry world. Shame. It must be horrible to be a little insect in this kind of weather. This cold must really affect them. But how cool is that little creature? So there we go. This just shows you that there's life that abounds all over the place. Sometimes we sit here and we think, well, there's not really much going on, but all you have to do is look on your dashboard and a multitude of different things start to arrive. And this is the best part about this rain, is that not only are we going to get green grass and growth of plant life that we really do need and desperately need, but we're going to get a lot of arthropods coming out. And the arthropods are some of my favorite things to look at. They really are super interesting. There's a whole different world that goes on just underneath our eyes, and we often easily overlook it, and a lot of people are absolutely petrified about insects, but they are really absolutely wonderful things. They have a lot of personality, some of them, and a lot of really interesting little traits, and so I'm quite happy to see our little insects. It's kind of like a little toy section that's all kind of around. And look, the mantid is going to go feed on them, or it's going at least to go and investigate. How cool is that? So I put that little green thing on there. It's a dead insect. It's not alive in any way, but look, the mantis has come to investigate to see what is going on. How cool is this? Now, normally mantises would feed, or mantid would feed on a live animal. I've never seen them scavenging before, so I'm really interested to see what it does. It's definitely curious about these insects, so I wonder what it's doing. That's so cool. Let's see if it'll actually start to kind of feed off it, if it's just coming to investigate. I wonder if it just came to kind of check what they are and just to see if it is a viable food source, or maybe if it was alive. No, it's decided it's going to move off now. So that was super interesting. I've never seen them kind of investigating dead insects before, but clearly this mantid wanted just to check what this green object was. You see how it completely ignored the orange one and went towards the green one? I wonder if it thought maybe it's another mantid that it was just coming to inspect and just to see what's going on with it. Super interesting. But you can see why they're called praying mantises. So when it kind of stops, hopefully, when it... Why can't you say that it's bug wars? Yes, it seems like it. I think the more rain we have, and as soon as we get a bit of sunshine, there's going to be a lot of bug wars. But I was saying you can see why it's called a praying mantid, but you can't now because it's now changed its position and it looks a lot different. But when it was up higher, you would have seen that the front legs were curled up and almost in a preaching position, as though they're praying, and so that's where they get their name from. And what's really interesting with them is the way that they actually curl their kind of tail section, if you want to call it a tail section, their abdomen, up over their body, and then they hold it up like that. And I'm not 100% sure what the reason is for it. Some do it a lot more than others. You'll find that this particular young one is doing it a lot. It kind of rears it up only when it stops though, and I wonder if it's maybe just to make itself appear a little bit larger. It almost has a spider look to it when it sits like this, and maybe that's why it does it. Maybe it's just to try and fool other predators that it's something that is dangerous and not to be eaten. You can also see that it's an insect that rely heavily on its eyesight. Look at the size of its eyes in comparison to its body. Massive big bulbous eyes on either side of the head. Now those will be made up of lots and lots of different lenses together, so it's a compound eye. It's not like ours, which is a simple eye and we have one lens. This has lots and lots of lenses on it, and that means it can detect movement very well. It just doesn't judge distance that well, so it's a bit of a difficult one for that, but it will detect any little bit of movement because each one of those eyes is going to have some sensory cells. How cool is this? Now, Lynn, it is a baby praying mantis. Remember, we're just coming into our summer months now. We've just started to have a bit of rain and heat, and so a lot of the insects are only now starting to hatch and come out. And so this is one of those examples. It's just a little tiny one that's probably come out of an Uthika recently. So the egg case for a mantid is called an Uthika, and you'll find that these Uthikas, depending on the mantid species, will be either very small or quite big. And it's amazing. I've seen Uthikas about that size, where there's probably easily 100 mantis that come out of a little Uthika that size. It just kind of pops open and almost looks like cotton inside, and in fact I've actually got a photo of it. I'll try and find it quickly and see if I can show all of you. It might take a little bit of time because I need to pull it up from somewhere and my hands are so wet and wrinkly that my phone is not going to even register my fingerprint, which is quite weird. So we'll have to dry that off at some point and just try it again. But while we kind of try and look for this photo, you can see Mvula is still very fast asleep and taking it very easy. He's not going to move anytime soon. I think he's decided, you guys are welcome to sit in the rain and talk about insects and various other cool things. I'm going to have a little nap, and I suppose rightly so. It's really nap weather. So don't worry, Mvula, I thoroughly agree with you. Now I'm trying to find these photos as quick as I can. It's going to take me a bit of time because it was quite some time ago that I took, well, that they were on my Facebook. So there it is actually. That was quite quick. It was much quicker than I thought. So here we go. I'm just going to put that down there. But that is what a mantis egg looks like. So that's a little Uthika that you can see there. And so this is the egg encasing, and then all the mantids actually start coming out of it. So that's the tiny mantid, which is about the same size as the one that we're seeing. And that's a piece of grass that you see underneath there with this Uthika attached to it, and then the mantid coming out. But it's really an incredible sort of shape and an incredible kind of little concept, and lots of little eggs inside there. And you find these Uthikas quite a lot in the summer months, so you'll see them kind of being formed, and you find them on grass, and they're kind of a soft, almost spongy sort of feel to them, almost like a loofah, if I can explain it like that. That's how they are. And I've actually been fortunate enough to see a mantid actually make one of these, so sit and watch it from start to finish, where it just started to kind of produce a little bit of this stuff, and it secretes it out of its body, and eventually it secretes this long Uthika, and depending on on the species, the shape of it will be different, and it will have a slightly different kind of way of doing things. So really very cool insects. I absolutely love the mantids. They are amazing. Right, now this leopard is starting to kind of just groom himself. The rain is still coming down. I'm not sure if he's going to get up, but with the rain falling the way it is, us driving around is not going to be very pleasant. And so I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer and see if he does decide to get up and move. And while I do that, I believe Tayla McCurdy is on a roll and has found herself some more predators, and hopefully they'll be on the move soon.
To play with and try and identify while you sit with your sleeping cat, because I have got nothing. No insects to play with. Although I will try and find some. They're all crawling up my legs at the moment, so I'll try and catch them in a minute. Oh, the hyenas have just started going. I think that's what's caught this female's attention. It's very far away. Unfortunately, I don't think you're going to be able to hear it. Now, these two lionesses are interesting. I don't know what pride they are a part of, but I'm pretty sure we've seen them before. Some of you may remember a sunrise safari from a couple of mornings ago where we had one of them eating a young warthog and then being escorted out by the jackal, and the other lioness was being chased by a herd of buffalo. So they didn't have a very good morning, but they're here and they're still quite well and looking in fantastic condition. So they must just live here on the edge of the Mara River and on this open plain. I can't imagine they'd be able to go anywhere else, unless they do pop into the Angama pride and the Olololo females every now and then. That could also be possible. They could all have broken away from the same pride. Maybe they come from the marsh pride, you know. It's so hard to say. It's just weird that we've seen two lionesses almost in exactly the same spot, a few days apart, and not with anyone else around them. I mean, initially I thought that maybe they'd just separated from the Angama pride, but then we found most of the Angamas together. We had so many lions that morning, so I'm trying to figure out exactly who we've got here. So if you do know, if you have any idea, perhaps you've got some old pictures, or maybe Brent has told you exactly who they are, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and let me know. Always good. I will have a little look. But we're going to leave these girls, bye lions, because I think I'm done with sleeping cats today. I don't know if my patience can take any more, so we're still going to look for white-tailed mongoose and servals. We'll try and keep that our goal. Megan, please can you say that again? I just didn't understand. With the B. Feather. Is that what you said? Feather, not heather. Feather with the... Yeah, all I'm getting is Heather with a B. So I don't know what that means. So I'm so sorry for butchering your name, but your question is, do lions live as long as leopards? Heba. There we go. There we go, that's it. Sorry about that. Yeah, comms are not clear this afternoon and I couldn't quite get that. So, do lions live as long as leopards? Pretty much the same. Male lions don't typically live for very long. They normally have an average lifespan of anywhere between 10 and 12. It wouldn't surprise me if the lions in this area, because there's so much competition, or the males in particular, live for a little bit less than that, maybe around 10 years old. And the girls can live up to 17 years is pretty old, but the average lifespan again is about 14 years old. Leopards are a little bit longer than that, but again it's a much of a muchness, because you might get a leopard that only lives to 11 and a lioness that lives to 16 years old. So it depends. So they're fairly similar, with a few years to sort of play with. Now, I'm actually thinking I've seen those lionesses from the hot air balloon as well. Yes, I did. I totally did. So I was very lucky and I got to go up in a hot air balloon, and I remember flying over this area. I'm just looking at this lugger. You won't be able to see it now, but there's a big lugger that's running to my right, and we're sort of just following it at the moment. We should see some hippos soon. And I remember I saw so many lions from the balloons, but I do remember seeing two lionesses fairly close to quite a massive lugger. And I'm just looking around going, this is a very obvious sort of scar in the land, and we're getting to that marshy spot now too, one of my favorite places to do birding. I don't know about how I feel about driving around in it during night though, especially after all the rain we've had, but we'll give it a bash anyway. But it's been pretty quiet. We haven't had a very exciting drive. Lots of lions, but lots of sleeping lions. It's a topi that are fast asleep in the grass, quite far away. Where does the road go? Through there. Alright. Let's cross this lugger quickly. This is apparently we're going through the water. Woo! Don't be too deep because I can't see. Oh. Not even deep at all. That was easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay. Right, well, we'll keep navigating around here. My headlight's not particularly bright, so hopefully we won't drive into any holes. Tristan is playing the patience game a lot better than I have today.
Well, yes, unfortunately we have to play the patience game. The weather is not indicative of a racing around finding animals game, and well, we've got one, so we might as well sit with him for a bit longer. He's kind of turned his back on us as if to say, well, I'm tired of showing you my face. And what amazes me is while we're sitting here and watching him is just how well he blends in when he's kind of facing away from us. The darkness of his back, if you see there how the coloration just absolutely blends in this black and white kind of monotone color of the IR, it actually becomes very difficult to make him out in that thicket. And it is starting to get quite dark now, unfortunately, and so I think Mvula hopefully is going to get up and start moving at some point. For now he's kind of stationary, and he has groomed himself a little bit, and there's a lot more signs that he's awake than there were a little bit earlier. He's not at least curled up anymore, he's quite sort of stretched out. The rain is starting to subside a little bit, and so I'm hoping that we are going to go on a little bit of a hunt fairly soon. Well, that's the idea anyway. We're going to try and hopefully stick it out and see if anything happens for us. But our Mantis is still with us and just taking it very easy and just sitting on the dashboard. I think it's found a nice place now. Maybe with the light it's decided that this is a good place to sit and to just absorb some nice light. So it's still sitting just over there, and you can actually just see how big it is. If you wanted to get an idea, there's my finger next to it. So it is absolutely tiny. This little one is a newly hatched mantis that has just come out of that Uthika, which is really, really cool. Now, I'm hoping that this poor little thing is going to be able to stay in the car for the ride home when we do start heading home, because then it will get a nice covered, sheltered area where it can dry off and stay out of this horrible weather, and this little insect hopefully can then survive. Although, going towards where we are and where the car is parked, I'm sure there's a number of little geckos and various other lizards that wouldn't mind a small mantis snack in the middle of the night, and so this little one is going to have to be very careful, and hopefully it won't end up with any problems. Super cool though. Just shows you that sometimes there's lots of stuff right under your nose. Now, Roshni, the eggs, you're asking what the eggs are made out of. Well, the egg itself is pretty much like most insects, is that they lay an egg. The difference with the mantid is that they spin what's called an Uthika. Now, the Uthika is essentially very similar to like a foam nest tree frog. It's a foam that they release, so there's a high moisture content in it, and it then eventually dries into that kind of hardened egg case with, so VM's just trying to get some lighting that's a little bit better because it won't show up on the infrared. It's a bit close, and I also don't want to be blinded by the infrared. And so it's a foam that is kind of that is secreted. It eventually starts to dehydrate and forms a rather sort of fibrous material. What that material is actually made out of, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some protein base to it, and so I'm not 100% sure of exactly what the composition of that foamy structure is. I'm sure there must be some part of their digestive tract that aids in getting nutrients and those kind of things, and given that mantis are predators, they hunt other insects, I'm sure it's a protein based secretion that's mixed with moisture that then basically causes that fibrous egg casing that surrounds the eggs and protects the eggs from predators and also from dehydration in the end of the day. It's much like what the foam nest tree frog does in essentially in the same way. Now, talking about foam nest tree frogs, we should hopefully start hearing them. They should be around. Viam was telling me a story about how he's gotten himself 2 foam nest tree frog pets, haven't you, Viam? Yes, Viam has now got one in his washing bag, apparently, that is in the laundry room. So there's now one that's his friend there, and another one that's in your room, Viam?
Yeah,
yes.
on my bed last night.
On his bed last night, and apparently it's a very nice frog. You can stroke it, and that it doesn't run away. So Viam has found himself a new friend in his room. Now, Viam, don't kiss the frog, because it's not going to work. You're not going to get something coming out.
I was sleeping on my toothbrush.
Was he sleeping on your toothbrush? Well, then indirectly you did kiss the frog, VM. So VM's been kissing frogs apparently and brushing his teeth with the aid of a foam nest tree frog. Now we should start hearing a lot of those foam nest tree frogs coming out, and I'd imagine they would love one of these little praying mantis to come along their way. They obviously are carnivores, most frogs, and they'll eat all kinds of little insects and various other things. So very, very cool. Now I was thinking about earlier when we were kind of talking about insects, and before I changed the topic of the mantises, Mary, you were wondering how many how many little ones will come out of an egg case like that. Between 100 and 200 is about the number, so anywhere between there. I know it's a vague figure, and 100 and 200 is two very different numbers, but generally that's about what you get out of them. It depends obviously on species and all kinds of other things, but it's a general kind of situation that you'll get. Now Mvula is starting to perk up a little bit and is kind of starting to get a little bit more sort of aware of his surroundings. It is starting to get nice and dark now, and so I would think that Mvula is definitely going to start getting up and moving at some point. If we're just patient enough, hopefully he will reward us and he will start moving around and trying to find some sort of food item, although he's starting to settle back down again. And I was saying that we were going to continue our insect discussion, and I was going to move away from the mantises, and I forgot completely this morning to show all of you what a lunar moth actually is. We were talking about the tail streamer of a lunar moth, and I was telling all of you that it is a lunar moth, but I didn't actually show you what a lunar moth is. For those of you that don't know what a lunar moth is, and our little quiz this morning, this is a lunar moth right here. Now lunar moths are quite common in our summer months. It is absolutely beautiful moth. It's this bright green, and that's that tail streamer that I found in the car. Now unfortunately this moth must have lost its tail streamer, the tail streamer we found. I hope it wasn't guzzled by something, but it will be somewhere around, and unfortunately probably at the end of its life. Now in terms of size of this lunar moth, it is probably, if I had to put it on my hand, about the size of my palm. So it would probably stretch all around there with quite wide wings that go over. So it's a really large moth, but absolutely beautiful. They're one of my favorite moths to find. And in the summer months, if you drive around just before rains, generally like what we saw this today or last night, you'll find them sometimes sitting on tambuti trees. So tambuti trees I find are one of the good places to look for lunar moths. They're often sitting on the tambuti itself or on the leaves, and sometimes even on the trunks of marulas you can find them there. And then obviously anywhere where there's lights in a bush environment, you generally find a lot of moths coming in, and the lunar moths are there with them. So beautiful, beautiful species, and hopefully one day we'll find one on one of the trees, and maybe on a bushwalk or even in a car. Because it's big enough, we can actually show you exactly what goes on with them. They really are one of my favorite moths that we get. Alright Mvula, it's time for you to start moving, young lad, or old lad. There we go. Now Roshni, you saying I've got you so excited for the bushwalk soon. Now I'm trying to put lights on because VM doesn't want to always use the infrared. Like I was saying, the infrared is a little bit of a problem for when I am looking at the camera, because it can blind me. So there's Mvula just looking around. Now Roshni, in terms of bushwalks, I'm excited to be doing bushwalks again now with a bit of rain, lots of insect life. I know James is coming back, and I'm pretty sure James is going to want to be on foot quite a bit. Steph, as we know, is just a bushwalk king, and so it's going to be a fun time ahead. And there's so much that can happen with bushwalks. We can have so many different things going on, and you get to kind of see all these microscopic things. And I mean, just now we've sat and we've discussed this at length, some of the insects, and this is just 3 of, you know, millions of insects that we get here, and there's so much to see. And bushwalk is the best thing when looking for arthropods, flowers, and any of those kind of things. It really gets you to delve deep into things that we just don't see from a vehicle and that we often miss out on. It's amazing to spend time with cats, and amazing to spend time with a number of the animals that we see out here, but getting down and dirty at kind of eye level with insects and all the others is also just as epic and just as special. And there is so much to learn about the arthropod world that we also just don't understand. There's so many insects that even, you know, amongst our entire presenting team, that there'll be insects that we don't know and that we're learning about constantly, and every year seems to be a different insect that comes out in mass that we can kind of learn about. And I saw the other day that Brent had an incredible sighting in the Mara of just sitting with thousands of fruit chafers, and that looked almost like the winged allets of termites coming out, but it was fruit chafers flying all around him. Absolutely insane. And Viam and I actually had a similar experience the other day. We had a bit of rain and we were driving back, and it was just we were being bombarded by fruit chafers falling from the marula trees. It was absolutely incredible. So, the insect world is a very special one as well, and one that is something great to delve into. And not only bushwalks, but tent is also a great thing for the insect world. Now Mvula's up, which is good news, so we're going to probably hope that he's going to start moving. Seems as though he's kind of looking off towards where he came from, so I'm hoping that Tingana's not approaching from behind us, although he seems like he might be moving. A bit of a yawn going. So we're going to start moving now, young man, or old man should I say. I can't call him young man. I'm so used to hanging around with the youngsters in the form of Hosanna and Tumba. Oh, he's going around the side, sorry Liam, but he is up and moving, so I'm going to try and turn around so that I can keep up with him, because we're the only car here, and so it's very difficult for me to keep up with him if I can't see him. So I'm going to need to turn around quickly, and hopefully our patience is going to be rewarded. The nice thing is he's also heading the right direction to not get thoroughly covered in rain, going northwards, which is fantastic news.
Oh my goodness, we were doing so well today. Pity those gremlins are out. They must have been brought in with the bad weather. That's over both locations today. No, we haven't had any luck at all. Not even a smidgen of luck this afternoon in terms of trying to... Hang on, wait. I may have spoken too soon. What is that? Is that a hyena? They look like a very big set of eyes just in the distance, just off the side of the road. It is the hyena. Okay, we can go a little bit closer. It's just sitting in the off to the side of the road in a bit of a ditch. That's quite cool. Let's go a bit closer. I just wanted to make sure, because if it was something like a bat-eared fox or a serval or a white-tailed mongoose, we want to give them the benefit of the doubt and start a little bit further away. Otherwise they might run. Hyena could also run, but they're typically so relaxed. I mean, sometimes they won't even move off of the road for you, so we'll just creep up a bit closer. And I heard the hyenas calling, and now the bush has gone quiet. Actually, the last couple of nights the bush has been very, very quiet. We haven't had... I'm just going to dim my lights quickly. I haven't heard the usual lions roaring about. Oh. Now, Lorne, you're wondering how long it's going to take me to get back to camp. Probably it's going to take a lot longer for me than this hyena would be able to travel. I reckon if it were to race me, it would get there before me. So camp, if you look just up on top in the distance, just up there, you might see some lights. That's camp. That's Angama up top there. So camp is just to the right of that. And I reckon from where we are now, if we've planned it correctly, we should be home by maybe 7:45, so 15 minutes or so after the show is ended. It depends. If I haven't got anything too exciting, I'm going to go past this hyena, see if we can get right up to it, because we need to go past it anyway. If I haven't got anything too exciting and I'm not sitting with the lions, then I will typically try and plan it that I'm relatively close to home. Look how relaxed it is. You're just going to move out the way a little bit. I'm going to creep past you, hyena. Or do you want to come this way? It's exhausted. Look at this. Hello. So this is exactly what I mean when I say, look how relaxed this hyena is. It's right next to the car. Right next. Me and the hyena. This is amazing. Not a care in the world. I'll just keep my light on it. I could, if I wanted to, and I'm not going to do this, I'd probably reach out and touch it. I do not want my fingers snapped off by a hyena, although I think that it would probably run away from me if I tried to do something stupid like that, but we won't be doing any of those things. Very curious, just looking, listening around, not quite ready to get up. Looks like an older hyena. Doesn't look very young, quite sort of tattered ears. I cannot tell from the way that you're sitting if you're a male or a female. You could be either. Although you actually look quite big. Maybe you're a female. And the hyenas, though, I've noticed that they're not as big as the Djuma hyenas. I don't know if anyone else has said that. I feel like the encounters I've had with them on foot back at Djuma, I thought they seemed to be a lot taller. Here, not so much. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'll move for you. Don't worry. What I will do, or we'll just let this hyena choose. I don't want to disturb you anymore. You've got a big fat belly, don't you? Typical of a hyena. Sorry. You can come back to your slumber just now. Why are we not going? I'm so sorry, Megan. Please may I have that question again? I just struggled to copy you there for a second. Just listening to a question. I keep missing a valuable part of this question that you're trying to ask me. It's from a question from James, and it's about the large clans of hyenas, and then there's something that every time Megan speaks, that word just cuts out, and it's the most valuable part of this whole question. I don't know. How crazy is that? Every time she talks. Again, Megan, it's just happened again. Sorry. Oh, splinter groups. There we go. Ah, now I could hear you. Every time Megan kept saying splinter, it was going, and I was going, I don't know, don't speak that language. I can't decipher that. So thank you, Megan. Yes, it can, of course, occur. I've actually noticed it quite a bit. I've only on a couple occasions seen big clans of hyenas together, and that was one morning we had amazing sighting. The hyenas were swimming. There was just hyenas coming from every corner, obviously coming back to the main matriarchal den. But most certainly with these large clans, I think you'll find that they're prone to sort of splintering off. And the same thing would happen with lions. I mean, the prides get quite large over here, so it's not uncommon for them to just sort of, have quite a few breakaways and then coming back and forth as they sort of please. I'm trying to think, every time I've bumped into a group of hyenas, maybe 3 or 4 of them, obviously single hyena on their own is also very, very common in South Africa as well as here in Kenya. Oh my goodness, I've not chosen a good road to drive that I need. I'm gonna get stuck. Yes, I've not chosen a good road. Okay, so I'm gonna have to I apologize, I'm not gonna be able to look back at the camera right now. I'm just decided to drive on the worst road in the history of roads, and it's filled with water and massive holes. So I just need to concentrate. My headlights are not that great, so I can't really see where I'm going. I'm actually using my spotlight. This is a little bit of a problem because now I can't even scan for animals. This is where multitasking is really, really, really difficult. But you can manage, it's okay. You just have to take it slowly, and like I said, I do apologize, and I'm not going to be turning back and looking towards you as regularly as what I normally would. Sometimes one needs to keep their eyes on the road, otherwise Jahawi and Richard will be fearing for their lives on the back of the car that I'm not focusing on where my tires are going. Now, this is an area that Brent has said he's seen many, many leopards. Some beautiful big forested areas just off to my left, a bit dark for you all to see. He's a little bit skittish, but there's also a big male that lives in here. I think Scott has seen him. He said he's very, very nice. So I'm hoping to find a spotted cat in the form of a leopard this evening. And so I've come down here because it is so stormy and cloudy. We might have a good chance of seeing them out hunting. And then of course we're still looking for our wonderful white-tailed mongoose and also porcupine. Now Robert, you've asked if there are any aardvark here. There are. I haven't seen them yet. Brent has had lions chasing aardvark before, so they are around. I feel like we'd see them more on the other side though, in the reserve. I don't know, the game density that side is just incredible, but it's also a very short grass and it's out in the open, so it's easy to spot such an elusive creature. The grass is still very, very long in places. Actually, there's the only section that I've really seen, besides when you get down to the Tanzanian border, the grass is quite long, and then that section around Little Governors that we were driving today, that's the shortest grass I've seen in the triangle so far, and that's what it looks like on the other side where Brent and Jamie are driving in the reserve. So it's quite easy to spot things like striped polecats or aardvark or white-tailed mongoose. This area we're in now is not great. We can still see them, but you might just see the tips, just the tops of the ears, or nose sticking out. I saw lots of aardvark in the southern sector of the Sabi sand, so where Tristan's driving, but just a bit further south. At one point I was seeing an aardvark every night for a couple of weeks, which was quite nice. So I have yet to see an aardvark since I've been here. So I've not seen an aardvark for just over a year now, which is a bit sad, because they really are amazing creatures. And for those of you who don't even know what an aardvark is, maybe someone can share a picture. I don't have a book to be able to show you now, or a decent picture of one, but they get huge. I mean, a big male can weigh up to 60 kilograms. That's not a small animal. It's quite a big creature. So they're funny looking things. And if you do get the chance, of course, to see one. If you go to Kalahari, though, that's a very good area to go and see aardvark. Even down in the Eastern Cape is pretty amazing too. I saw plenty more aardvark in the Eastern Cape than I have in the Sabi Sands. Actually would see them every other night, which was quite nice. Also lots of termites around there though. Big mounds, you'd see them feeding on. Oh, here we go, another bumpy section. Not too many insects tonight either, which is good. A couple that were crawling on my leg, but touch wood, they seem to have stopped for now. Oh no. I need to pick my roads a bit better. This should just be a daytime road. This is not a nighttime road, unfortunately. Now, Foxcatcher, you've asked if we have a rain gauge at Angama to let us know how much rain we have received. I haven't seen one. I will check with Tayla and Shannon though. They are a management couple. So maybe there is one. Maybe there's one in the staff village somewhere. I just have missed it. I haven't seen it. Trying to think today. I don't know how much rain fell on the top of the escarpment. Maybe Faith, if you're listening to the nonsense that I'm talking at the moment. Did you get any rain in camp? Faith is sort of assisting, directing the show from this side. But she's up at camp. We avoided the rain today, so I'm not sure how much we've had. But most nights, I guess we had a quick shower. Trying to think how much rain we had. Maybe 10 mils of rain, maybe even just slightly less than it. It wasn't particularly much. Oh, frog! So apparently Faith is saying that it did rain, but it didn't rain very much. Maybe one of those quick showers. I have an amphibian over there. I just want to show Jahawi with the spotlight, but then I shall turn it off. It is very camouflaged. It is there. Right where the heat... There we go, just above. I'm not going to... Can we use the infrared? There we go. Now I can turn my spotlight off and get the reflection of its eye. So it's a bit difficult for all of you to see, but I shall describe the colours to you. I think it might be a raucous toad. It looks to me like it's maybe a raucous toad. It's very granular skin, whereas frog skin's typically quite smooth. And then it's sort of dark blotches with a greenish, khaki, brown, yellow other colour to it in between the dark patches on its body. It's not particularly big. It reminds me, it's either going to be a leopard eastern leopard toad or something like that, or it's going to be a raucous toad. It's definitely one of them, which is quite cool. Just sitting in amongst the grass. Everybody's come out into the open though, onto the road to try and keep the last of the warmth. But it's quite nice now the wind has dropped, or we're just in a very sheltered spot. Very cool though. I'd like to find more of the grass frogs. Would be nice. But we can keep on going. We'll see. And maybe we can find some more frogs around. It's a good area. It's grassy. We know they love the grassy area. Sorry, I have to rev the car more than I should to get it to go. Come on, Paka. Sometimes these cars need positive reinforcement as well. I'm going to give that to them. Okay, so I'm going to keep navigating. I might use two hands to drive on this road now because I know there's a boggy spot coming up. Tristan has done a sterling job in finding Mvula, who gave him a slip.
Well, we managed to get him again. He's now moving up Vuyatela access and looks as though he's going to head slowly more towards the west and probably cross over into Simambili fairly shortly. He's just meandering his way up the road, so we're going to try and keep up with him. Hopefully the signal will be okay as we go northwards with him and try and kind of keep up on the same sort of route as he's walking. It was a bit of a nightmare to keep up with him through the thicket that we came through from Sandy Patch, but well, it seems to be worth it. And what's interesting is that there must be a fair amount of rain on the roads because a fair amount of rain that's come down because there's puddles that are on the roads at the moment and developing, and so there's a fair amount when you start to see puddles actually on the roads itself. So they're the puddles that I was talking about that Mvula has walked past. I thought he might drink out of one, but I don't think they're deep enough just yet. He was chasing a scrub hare just now. Unfortunately the scrub hare was far too far. He ended up losing it, but he's still watching. There was a scrub hare actually that just ran across the road, so he's just stopping and having a little look. We're going to try and kind of just keep Mvula. If he heads towards Triple M, we should pick up signal again, but before we lose signal, let's quickly jump back across to Tayla. Now, apparently not. We're not going to quickly jump across to Tayla because we have to wait for the delay, so I might as well keep talking, but let's go across to her now.
Can you spot the frog? It is camouflaged against the ground at the moment, especially with the infrared. I'm trying to search which tree frog this could be. You can see it just sitting there. It's definitely one of them. It looks fairly similar to a southern foam nest frog, but I don't know if we get the foam nest frogs up here. It is open, because I can't remember. I remember seeing tree frogs of sorts, but no. It's very slow. I have now not really got any internet, unfortunately. But another nice one for the list. We're doing fairly well. Let me try and get a better position so we can actually have a look at this thing side on. Okay, let me keep that to make sure I'm not going to drive into anything. So sorry about Tristan. I'm not sure what's going on today. Hang on, you know what? No! Don't you leap away from me. Can you believe that? Oh, hang on, that's actually even better, Jahawi. There it is. Can you see it just in the grass? It's just sort of sitting on the stems. There we go, it's just leapt. You can see the grass moving. Okay, no, this frog is gone. Okay, bye frog. It was a tree frog of sorts. I'm not sure which one. But it had the big buggy eyes and very smooth skin, and then also very big sort of wide splayed toes, which they'll use to hold on to all sorts of things. Mr. Child, you said you love how frogs have got such big eyes. It's very important that they have big eyes. It's probably their best sense, and especially in terms of trying to find sort of prey. They rely on their eyesight quite a bit, and I'm sure there's no shortage of food at the moment. I don't think it'll be particularly difficult with all the insects that are around for the frogs to feed. Oh my goodness. Oh, luckily this road is dried up quite a bit. Remember the other morning when I came driving around, we got covered in mud and I was worried that we were going to get stuck? We're on that road. And just in case you were wondering, you saw what it looked like during the day. It's a nightmare, but it is a lot easier to drive on now that there's not so much water, but there's still a couple of boggy spots, and I have to keep my eyes on the road. Right, I'd like to see an owl now, please. Nature. A marsh owl. A rose eagle owl. Any owl would be quite good. Oh, we haven't seen a barn owl. Jahawi, have you ever seen a barn owl in the triangle? Not in the triangle. And the reserve? Okay. So Jahawi says he has seen barn owls before in the Masai Mara National Reserve. It's quite nice. It's been a long time since I saw a barn owl. And Megan says, Megan's directing today, Megan says she'd like to see a jackal. Megan, we could find you a jackal. There could most certainly be some jackal around. We're not near any of the jackal dens. And actually, every time I've gone past some of those dens, they don't look like they're active anymore. I think they've moved off and on to other spots. Goodness, my brain is going to be really tired after tonight. Just feel like I'm concentrating so much on the road, more than I normally do. Never driving this road again at night. Absolute last time. Are you frogs? Am I going to squash you? Or not frogs, you're just pieces of grass. That's the other thing. You trying to scan with the spotlight, just to describe to you how difficult it actually is, and then try not to drive over the creatures on the floor. Now, Miss Lynn, you're wondering, what on earth did I just see? What, the question was, sorry, I just got distracted by a bug. What is that? That is an interesting looking creature. I don't know if you can see it there. It's a big black bug. I'll get to your question now. Oh my gosh, it's hideous. What is that? How big is its abdomen? That's amazing. That would be delicious. Where's the frogs when you need it? Or anything that eats insects, really. That would be a fantastic meal. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that before. Looks like it maybe I don't know what beetle it would be. No, I've actually, no, where did it go? I don't want to drive over it. Oh, there he is. Hang on. Make sure there's no blood wallows here. Let's have another look at it. And it's got orange on it. Oh, that's so interesting. It's an interesting little colour. It's sort of brown. Oh, the light's gone. So it's still there. It's still there just to the right. A little bit down. There we go. So it's brown in colour. And then that bright part that you can see at the back underneath, I would presume that its wings are being kept under the carapace there. It's almost an orange colour. It doesn't look like it can move very well, so it better be careful tonight, because the small owls, the smaller species of owls here that do feed on insects, would snatch that up in an absolute heartbeat. A jackal would even come and eat that. Like I said, it's not a small bug. It's probably about half the size of my hand in terms of length, so maybe I'd say 5 or 6 centimeters long, maybe even a bit bigger than that, which is amazing. And off it is, it's just going. I wonder if it's come out the forest. It looks like its antennae are quite sort of are they feathered? Looks like it, doesn't it? Very good sense receptors, those antennae. I'm just crawling about. Maybe some of you have seen it before? Oh, Arlaramo, you said, is that perhaps a queen termite? No. So this is not a queen termite. Termites will still look very much like termites, but you're quite right. It's got a very large abdomen, though. Very, very fat. Those queen termites can get up to 10 centimeters in length. So actually, even, I would say a queen termite would be maybe a little bit bigger than that. Maybe not quite as robust all the way, because she'll have a smaller head. That was a cool looking insect, though. And it is nice, after the rain you do start to see a whole lot more like that. So if you did get some screenshots again, please share them and we'll try and figure out what it is. Jahawi has got an insect book. And also, I forgot to say thank you, I'm so rude. Thank you to all of those who confirmed that our little beetle that we saw the other day was indeed a blister beetle. I'm glad that I had my jersey on. And sorry, there's too many voices in my head today. Very difficult to concentrate. Some days are easier than others. And so, now I've completely forgotten what I was speaking about. Sorry, everyone. Having trouble focusing this evening. Cool, let's carry on. Let's see if we can find this jackal that Megan has asked for. I haven't got a jackal, I've got a hippo for you though. Some elephants. Just going to stop up here and we'll have a look at our hippo. I'm not going to put the spotlight on him because he's death staring me at the moment. Actually, I think that this is the same hippopotamus. Oh, there's 2! And I know exactly where they've come from. They live in this little dam not too far away. It's a little man-made dam that the Angama guests will look down onto. So the 2 of them, and they quite happily live there. They also bounce between one of the dams just below our camp. So they come up every now and then, but they're not heading that direction tonight. They're heading out into the triangle. And well, I think the grazing is quite nice around here, so they'll be alright. So that's where they're going. I always enjoy seeing hippo, and I actually saw one of them this morning out in the open heading back towards the dam. So they actually come from the east. Looks like 2 young bulls though. Very cool. Awesome. Well, it seems as though Tristan has managed to find himself a little bit more signal, which is good. And he's still searching for a leopard, so let's go back across to him.
Well, we had to leave Mvula, unfortunately. We just went to an area where there was just no signal, and so we left him busy chasing scrub hares and trying to hunt them as he was going on and around that area. So hopefully he'll get lucky and find something. He was right on the boundary with Simambili, so unfortunately we were going to lose him anyway. So it was still an epic afternoon with him, and I'm glad we got to spend some time. And then just now we had a brief little sighting of a white-tailed mongoose that ran across the road and quickly into the bush, unfortunately, and we lost it fairly fast, which was not ideal. But we are slowly making our way home now. It is freezing cold and it's still raining, and I think Liam and I are both looking forward to a change of clothes, and dry ones at that, because I'm certainly, for one, very soggy and fairly wet at the moment, and having cold, wet sort of shirt and underwear and pants is not really very comfortable, and so I'm looking forward to getting home just to change and get into something dry, that's for sure. And hopefully tomorrow morning it will be a drier start to the day, and that it rains itself out during the night tonight, and we end up with a situation where it's a little bit more pleasant in the morning. I think it's still going to be very cold, but at least if it's not raining, it'll still be quite nice. But unfortunately, that is about all the time that we have for this evening. It seems as though it's been, even though we've had a few little gremlins and technical issues and a bit of rain, it's still been an absolute blast this afternoon. I hope that all of you have enjoyed, from the cheetahs to all the lions and to Mvula, the legend that was around this afternoon. It's been an absolutely wonderful afternoon. So from Brent, Tayla, Jamie, myself, VM, Megan, we'll see you all tomorrow on the Sunrise Safari.